What is up, everybody? Hope you're all doing well, and welcome to Q&A number 6. Let's get started.
Why do you only use the 15-inch Bison's dark hi-hats for gigs? Why not bring the extra dry 16-inch hi-hats? Thanks.
So really, the main reason why I bring the 15-inch Bison's dark hats to most of my gigs is pretty simple. It's because most of my gigs require that kind of sound. Almost all the gigs I play is with that Swedish tribute band that I'm part of, that I play with almost every weekend. And in that setting, I'm hitting the hi-hat pretty hard. It's a lot of the open hi-hat. So those hats are a bit more straightforward in their sound compared to, say, the extra dry 16-inch hi-hats or the other hi-hats and combinations and stuff that I have. It's like when I just tend to want that bit more cutting, straightforward, traditional kind of hi-hat sound, and the 15-inch Bison's Darks give me more of that than these do. These are my all-time favorite hi-hats, the 16-inch Bison's extra dry medium thin hi-hats. But in that setting, the Bison's Darks are a better choice, just because I'm hitting so hard. It's just, I want it to be straightforward. But if I'm playing a quieter kind of setting, or pretty much anything else, really, I pretty much always use these, or the dual crash over the hi-hat bottom, the 16-inch combination that I have. So, yeah, it's pretty much a matter of volume and kind of the sound I'm looking for. It just happens to be that most of the time that's the sound I want from the 15-inch Darks.
If you could be a part of or fill in for any band or artist, who would you pick and why?
That's a great question, and in all honesty, when it comes to being a part of, like, say, a major band, like touring all the time and that kind of stuff, it really doesn't interest me that much, at least not right now, because I really love what I'm doing right now, which is making a lot of videos, doing session work, and teaching a lot, you know, that kind of stuff, working on my own career, working on my own brand, rather, in that regard. So for me to, like, go on tour with a band, it would be a fun chapter of my life, but not necessarily something I would want to do all the time. So as for being a part of a band, I don't really know, honestly. But when it comes to filling in, there are a bunch of bands I would love to fill in for. Not saying I could handle the music, but for example, say, Meshuggah, Animals as Leaders, Periphery, that kind of music where it's just the kind of music I tend to listen to a lot, where, you know, it's like really metal, but still it's infused with a lot of different other genres. It's really what I enjoy playing the most, pretty much. So that would be fun to fill in with. Not saying I could handle that kind of stuff, like Animals as Leaders stuff is just crazy. But that would be a fun kind of setting to fill in for, absolutely.
What's that circular black thing on the top of the floor tom's batter head?
Alright, so a lot of you guys are asking about this floor tom head, and what it is basically, it's a 16-inch Evans EMAD calf tone head. And traditionally, that's a bass drum head, but this one, the 16-inch one, comes in two versions. One for floor tom, or with tom hoops, you know, the metal hoops, that kind of thing. And one that's more for traditional bass drum, you know, the wooden bass drum hoops. So this head wouldn't fit if I had a 16-inch bass drum. This one wouldn't fit, and if I had a 16-inch bass drum head, it wouldn't fit on my floor toms. It's important that you get the right one. But I just love to straight up use it as a floor tom head. It basically turns my 16-inch floor tom into another bass drum, and I love that sound. It's super short, abundance of attack, and I just love the way it sounds. It's a lot of fun to play around with. So a 16-inch Evans EMAD calf tone head, tom hoop version. But to answer your question, the black ring is basically like a dampening ring. It has a sleeve here, and then there's this foam ring on the inside. You can tuck it under there, and it comes with this smaller size and another size, or you could use none of them if you want it a bit more open. Basically what that does is it focuses the attack and the tone of the drum a bit more, so it's even more like a bass drum. Take this off and it will have a little bit more of an open tone. But I'm loving this head. You guys should definitely try it out. There's a clear version available as well for floor toms, so go check it out.
How do you like to approach short drum solos in the middle of songs? I've watched some of your gig videos where you have one, but what else would you like to do to keep the audience attention and show off a little? Thanks.
So my approach to that really depends on the context. So say it's in the middle of a song, I would usually try to kind of refer to the main groove of the song. So I would get back into the groove or a similar groove that fits as if it was like a part of the song. Just get into a groove and experiment a bit around that. You know, expand your borders a bit, play some fills and incorporate. You see what I mean? So you're using the groove that's tied together with the song as your foundation to kind of show off a little on top of. That's a thing I like to do, because then, you know, it makes sense within the grand scheme of the whole song. But again, it really depends on the context. So for example, the audience has a big part of it. So if I'm playing in a bar with like a bunch of drunk people who don't even know they're supposed to clap on 2 and 4 and not 1 and 3, usually I would just, you know, keep the kick drum going or some kind of steady pulse and just kind of do, you know, straightforward but still kind of flashy stuff, you know, a bunch of fills like rolls on the toms, but you see what I mean? Then I would keep it more simplistic. But if I'm playing like at a jazz club with a bunch of musicians in the audience, maybe then I would expand my horizons a little bit more and play a little bit more musically, if that makes sense. So just read the audience and read the music and the general theme of the song that you're playing in, or whatever setting it is. Just kind of get a feeling for what your role is right there, and just try to do your best with it. Try to have fun. It really shows when you're having fun.
Hey, do you know what type of wood shell, drum head, or any other components of a snare drum that will sound good for a fat, low tune, and if possible, dead sound? For the dead sound, I heard the Evans Hybrid is good for that, and for the snare shells, I heard Beechwood is good, but I've never tried any of those, so I wouldn't know. Perhaps someone experienced like you would know?
So the general recipe you want for a fat, low tune, really dead sounding snare drum is generally you would want a wood type that's a bit more suitable for low tunings. And what that means is basically you want a kind of wood that has a naturally lower pitch. So for example, birch has a pretty high pitch naturally, so that would not be such a great choice for a snare drum you want to tune really low. But for example, walnut or mahogany are woods that have a naturally lower pitch, so those will probably be more suitable. Maple is pretty much the go-to wood that will work for pretty much everything. But if you really want to have something specific for that, I would look into, like I said, mahogany, walnut, that kind of stuff. And I don't really have much personal experience with different kinds of woods because I only own one kit and one snare drum, so I haven't tried that much myself. I've just done some research and I know that this is kind of how it works, but you can Google it and you'll different types of woods, you'll find even more information about it. But generally, it also, when it comes to the head, for example, I know the Evans HD Dry head is really great for that because that has a lot of overtone control, and that's basically what you're going for. You want a head that optimally has built-in overtone control, because when you tune down the drum, it tends to have a lot of wonky kind of overtones that if you want a dead sound, you basically want no overtones. That's kind of what dead means in this situation. So I would look at the Evans HD Dry, but even the Evans Heavyweight, which has a bit more overtones, is great. It has a lot of attack, but then you have to put more dampening on it. So generally, the dead part of the dead part of a snare drum sound comes from a lot of dampening, either inbuilt into the head or just a lot of dampening stuff, kind of like I have it on right now. And the wood, I would say walnut, mahogany, something like that has a naturally lower pitch, but also the thickness of the shell makes a difference. Thinner shells are more suitable for low tunings and generally have a bit of a lower pitch, while thicker shells has a bit of a higher pitch, more projection. You see the difference. So do a bit of research on that kind of stuff. Just Google around and you'll see what I mean. But that's what I can tell you right now, at least.
Hey Siros, not sure if anyone has asked you yet, but what inner monitors do you use?
So this is a pair of custom molded inner monitors by a Swedish brand called Sound and Communication. Basically, it's one guy who runs the company, and he lives really nearby. He's just half an hour away from here. So the customer service is great. If I ever need to fix anything about these, like change, your ears adapt with time and stuff. So if I need to fix these or they break or anything, I have a lifetime warranty. I can just drive up to him and he'll fix them for me in a day. So that's really great. But in general, when it comes to inner monitors, I really don't know much about these, in all honesty, what in terms of how many drivers and stuff are in them. I just know that they sound great, they work great, they fit well, and I'm very, very happy with these. It was kind of a hefty investment, but in general, custom molded inner monitors tend to cost a bit, but I can definitely say is probably the best investment I ever made in terms of music or drums or anything. These pay off every single day that I use these, and I just, I can't recommend custom molded inner monitors more. Whatever brand it is, I don't know if he even does international kind of stuff with Sound and Communication, but whatever brand you're looking at, just buy a pair of custom molded inner monitors. You will never regret that decision. So these are really cool. Sound and Communication is the brand that made these, Swedish brand.
Do you have some tips for playing quiet without losing tightness?
That's a really great question, and my answer to that kind of comes in two parts. One is how you use your hands, and more specifically how you use your grip. Because when you're playing quiet and you want to maintain control, what you're really doing is you're using your fingers a lot. Smaller muscles for smaller movements, for more tight, precise, quiet kind of playing. So depending on how you grip your stick, whether that's French grip, German, American, or anything else, that will really impact the amount of freedom and flexibility you have in moving your fingers around and really maintaining a precise, controlled feel. So depending on what cymbal I'm on and what kind of groove I'm playing, I'll change my grip around a lot, and that really helps me play quiet and maintain control. The other part is how you use your foot on your bass drum. That really makes a difference in how you sound out to the audience. Because when I play heavy, I don't know if you can see that from here, but when I hit the bass drum hard, I tend to bury the beaters. Basically, I leave the beater on the head. But when I'm playing quiet, I usually let it bounce back. It lets the bass drum open up a bit more, and that would generally sound better out into the audience when you're playing quiet. Because if I bury my beater, it has kind of a funky sound to it when I do that when I'm playing quiet. So generally, it would sound better to let the bass drum breathe in a quieter setting. So those components together, and again, you know, a lot of practice, just practice on playing everything. Being able to play quiet is really important. So practice those two things, maintaining a flexible grip and tight, controlled, precise finger movements, and letting the beater bounce off the bass drum and just feel that you're in control. I tend to lean forward a little bit as well when I'm playing quiet and just kind of, you know, get into the kit a bit more instead of just kind of, you know, like that. I'll try to almost be one with the kit, if that makes sense. So I hope that helps you.
What type of vehicle do you use to transport your gear for gigs? I always had a truck with some sort of camper shell on it.
So the vehicle I use for transporting my drums to gigs or whatever it is I need to move them to is me and my girlfriend's car, which we bought back in September last year, which was a real lifesaver for me because that's about the time when I started to gig a lot more, so I really needed a car. But the car is basically a Ford Focus Trend from 2007, and it's a really great car for transporting drums because you can fold the seats down. You have a lot of, even without folding the seats down, you have a lot of trunk space. But when you fold those down, I can get my entire kit and everything, like all of that in there, and still have a passenger seat available in front, and I can still cram even more into it. So it's a great car for moving drums and whatever it is around. It's saved my life a lot of times already. So a Ford Focus Trend from 2007 is my car. Alright guys, so that will be it for today's Q&A video. I hope you enjoyed hearing me rambling out all my answers to your questions, but I really enjoy answering them, so keep posting your questions, whatever it is, drum related, non-drum related, and I'll try to answer those for the next week's episode. So see you guys around with some more videos soon, and take care.